Let me see if we are recording. Just a moment. Okay. So thank you, Yujiro. Okay, I will follow that script that I wrote, but you are free to talk into what you want to talk about. You are free to talk what you want to talk about. We are
Well,
very anxious to to hear what you has to talk to us because we 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 think your move is very important. The idea of uh, recording the sculptures, the Buddhist sculptures of Japan, it's a very important thing. We live in a time of technology and increasing technology, so it's very important what you are doing. So thank you, Yujiro, for being here. I think last year I was on YouTube searching for some videos, some contents on Buddhist symbolism and art. And then I came across a YouTube channel about a documentary movie called Carving the Divine. Carving the Divine. The name is very interesting. In Portuguese, it's something like Esculpindo o Divino.
sounds
Carving the
good.
Divine. Yeah. The documentary, which talks about the Buddhist sculptures of Japan, in Japanese, Bushi, the art of Bushi. And Yujiro Seki, he's the director of this movie, and he also has that YouTube channel in which he invites many experts of Eastern philosophy, accomplishing great interviews and content. So thanks again, Yujiro. So Yujiro, could you introduce yourself a little? And could you explain what was your motivation to make this very important documentary?
Wow. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored to be here.
Thank you.
Um, my name is Yujiro Seki. I'm a director of the documentary Carving the Divine, as you might know. Uh, we also started a YouTube show called Carving the Divine TV, which, as you said, which is about the basic concept and the philosophy of Buddhism. Uh, as I finish making this documentary, I've realized one of the most important things. As much as I think the subject of my documentary is awesome. Nobody knew. Nobody knew about it.
Yes.
I talked to people on the street, and I made a movie about the Japanese Buddhist sculptors, and the people are just baffled. Oh,
Yeah.
what's so big deal about it? So, it's a 1,400-year-old Japanese tradition. It's older than samurai, the tradition of samurai. And not many people don't know about it. But when you go to Japan, you see those statues everywhere on the street, somebody's house, and temples. And, it's been with us for a long time. So, how can you think that's not important? But
Yeah.
people don't know anything about it. So that's one of the reasons why I started the YouTube channel, getting down to very basic. Because this thing gets really complicated, very
Mhm.
difficult, very esoteric, and
Yeah.
many people don't want to learn anything about it because it's too difficult for the first time. But once you get into it, once you truly start understanding what this wisdom tradition is all about, you change your mind. You think, wow, this is amazing. This is the thing that we are missing in the 21st century. We can only think black and white. We only believe in modern science as a new religion.
Yeah.
So for a long time, even long before we are born, we are thinking about this very question. No matter where you're from, no matter what country you're from. So, why we are born, why we suffer, how can we put up with all the suffering in
Yes.
life? And what's waiting for us after we die? But, in the recent years, people completely ignore that question as if it doesn't exist.
Yes.
And I think when we are about to die, you realized, wow, what just happened? And then I'm going to just go. So get back to your question. I started this channel because I wanted to introduce the basic concept. I started with the scholar, and each episode is like a 10 minutes long. It's a very bite-sized, easy, but it's not profound enough for many people. But we gotta start someplace. So after I was doing this show, I realized I'm only getting a point of view from a scholar, and it's too simplistic. So I invited people who actually practice different sects of Buddhism, so that we can hear what they have to say about their own traditions. So after you put two and two together, you should be able to figure out where to study, how to study. That's the idea. It's a drill. Then I introduced finally a lecture on Buddhist statues, because it's really hard to get into studying about Buddhist statues right away.
Yeah.
So everything comes together. So we have a lecture. We actually have a diagram, and we explain different categories of Buddhist statues. Then finally, if people watch my documentary, you might be able to understand why I'm so enthusiastic about it, why I'm thrilled about it. So you can even watch the documentary without understanding anything about the Buddhism or anything about the symbolism of statues, because it's ultimately about the relationship between masters and apprentice, and the human desire to create the art that is transcendence, which anybody from any culture can identify it. So yes, for many reasons, this tradition is important, but it's because it's multidimensional. So Carving the Divine, the documentary, will open up the door for people to learn about this beautiful wisdom tradition. As much as learning about the Japanese culture, Japanese discipline. I heard, in Latin American countries, people lack a little bit of discipline. That's what I heard. So and the people can learn about Japanese discipline. Of course, Japanese people have to learn how to relax, how to take things easy from Latin American people. But I think for discipline and how to perfect art, Japanese people really take them seriously. So yes, I talk too much. But that's the that's a pretty basically premise behind why this work is important. Yes.
Very, very interesting. First, let me say that I learned a lot with your channel. I watched all the videos on Buddhist deities and the art of Bush, the sculptures of Japan. I learned a lot. So I really like your channel. And so,
By the way, the documentary is nothing like my channel. I'm just letting you know. You don't even see me in the documentary, so which is good news, right?
So, Yujiro, could you describe to our public some principles of the art of Busha, the art of the sculptures of Japan? What is that art? Who are the artists? Who are the craftsmen? They are also spiritual masters. Can you describe a little more about the art of sculptures of Japan?
Again, once you watch the documentary, I'm gonna completely destroy your imagination about these people. First of all, Bushi tradition has been in Japan for 1,400 years. Buddhism is about 2,500 years, but it didn't come to Japan till 6th century.
Mm-hmm.
And Bushi tradition started around the 7th century. Beginning of the time is always myth. We don't know what's right, what's wrong, or we can only trace back on historical evidence and chronicle of the people. But around that time, people from Korea or China, they came to Japan and they started teaching people and they started making statues, for Japanese people, Buddhist statues. So that's the start of a Bushi. I don't know back then if they really called themselves Bushi, but I think we are pretty sure about it because so there's an inscription saying Tori Bushi, and they are probably from Korea or China around that area. And Japanese Buddhist statues had been for somewhat imitation of Chinese or Korean counterpart, but around the year 1000, the Japanese started developing their own style. It's called Wayo style because of the political kind of tie between Japan and China was kind of stopped. And also there's a person called Jocho. He started his own style. So I don't know if it's his own style, but it's a very Japanese style. They say it's Wayo. So slowly Japanese statuary became very Japanese Wayo style, very own unique style, and it became very detailed. And around like 1200, 1300, Japanese Buddhist statuary, the style of icon was kind of established. So the icons, perfect image of icons were established. So this means from that point, there's not a lot of innovation, not a lot of I'm going to create my own style or anything like that. So primary job of a Bushi is to make the icons from the past around that time. Of course, some people, we are human. We still make something very unique. But the idea is that, we are not expressing ourselves. That makes sense. We need statues, icons for rituals, for spiritual purpose. So, Bodhisattva canon, the style is the same, pretty much. And good Bushi, skillful Bushi can create the beautiful style that has been done before. So it means people struggle to make something that their ancestors made, which is very interesting because any other things, human innovation, they always want to surpass.
Yeah.
But there's no surpassing there, Maybe there is, but for the most of the part, that's what's a Bushi, the job of Bushi. Of course, there are many exceptions out there, but we don't talk about the exceptions now. We're just talking about the main idea. So yes, so this is the Bushi, art of Bushi, and the documentary is about the 21st century Bushi, trying to make the beautiful art in this modern world. you can actually see the microcosm of a apprenticeship that was probably about the same 1,400 years ago, 1,300 years ago, 200 years ago. I don't know. But, the tradition has been in Japan for 1,400 years. So, I hope we get to see something different, something that people have never seen before.
Yeah. Thank you. Yujiro, you talk about the presence of Buddhism in Bushi. But is there also the presence of Shintoism in Bushi? Do Bushi sculptures depict also Shintoism deities or only Buddhist deities?
Well, here's the thing. When you talk about Japan, we are very, I guess, weird people. Because, see, like in the Western world, Christianity is Christianity. Yeah, right? I think Islam is Islam. Judaism is Judaism. So, I think there's a clear distinctions between these traditions. Of course, always there are many exceptions out there. But, when I think of the West, Christianity, Islam, Judaism. But Japanese history is very syncretic. So means like about the 6th century when, first time the Buddhism came to Japan, Japanese people had to figure out how to integrate that into their own society, right? There was a Shinto there, all spiritual religion. So, so one of the ways they did that is that they have a equivalent of Buddhist deities and Shinto deities. So it's called Shinbutsu Shugo. So it basically means, there's not so much differences between these. They're kind of the same thing. So that's the idea. Of course, Shinto deities and the Buddhist deities look a little bit different, but at the same time, they coexisted with the Japanese culture for a long time. That's why when you go to Japan, there's a Shinto shrine in a temple, and you get confused. What's going on out there? I thought I came to a Buddhist temple. So, in that sense, they are mutually exclusive for the most part. So, it does not mean that some Buddhist sculptors only want to make Buddhist deities. Especially in the modern time, it's almost become a job. Buddhist sculptors, the job of Bushi is a career. So if your customer says, I want to make this, they make this. So, maybe, if they say, maybe some Bushi would make Disney characters too. Who knows? Because the job of Bushi is to make containers, not to create the deities. Put the spirit into the deities. That's a monk's job.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, I don't know if that's answered your question or not.
Yeah. No, yes, sir. Shil, I think you have. I don't know if you have any question, but let me ask another question.
Yes.
Before, I was watching, I think yesterday, a scholar, but an Indian scholar, and he was talking about the iconography of the Buddhist, but of India, not of Japan. And he was talking that the necessity of the icon comes because we need something, some object, some form, some visible form to concentrate our mind. He was talking specifically on Buddhism. But the goal of that concentration is to reach something that doesn't have form, something that is
formless,
without form, formless. So, and also when some person creates a form or creates an icon, some master creates an icon, he's also express himself. He's expressing his heart, for instance, and he's expressing also his vision of the some contemplation that he had, and he expressed that. So he said that all the Buddha's icon is living, is a living icon. So they are living icons because the Buddhist iconography are developing. They are increasing also, but not in a way the technology is increasing. So I was thinking you could talk something about that. That is related. The Buddhist iconography or the Buddhist statues, they are related to that. Or in other words, the masters, when they create the statue or the icon, the iconography, they had the necessity to have this vision, to have this contemplation when they are creating. In other words, there is the presence of spiritual contemplation in the creation of statues and iconography. Can you talk something about that, please?
Very interesting. I love that. I might
Okay.
I might destroy your imagination or point of view as a scholar too. So as I said, the bushi is an occupation. And also it's better to start being a bushi, training of bushi when you are young. So it's you have to have a skills. That's the first step. All the philosophies and all that Atman, Brahman, or whatever, right? So those things is out the window because first of all you gotta be able to do the job. So for example, like when you start 15 versus when you start 30, there are big difference. But when you are 30 years old, you are more aware of the world. When you are 30 years old, you think about all this spirituality and all this, and you think, oh, I want to be bushy because everything else is empty, and I want to leave something behind that's going to be beneficial to people. And, they go through life and there's a reason why they want to be bushy. When you are 15, you go to the temples and see the statues and wow, that's cool. I want to make this as an occupation, right? But when you start 30s, you cannot have the skill sets so easily. Some people can, but when you are young and start, it's just like a learning language. If you start late, it's really difficult. But when you start early, you can pick it up pretty quickly. So I see the difference between somebody start early, somebody start late. But I do agree with you. At some point, people have to come to this realization that they were actually making a spiritual icon. They put the heart and soul into the statue. One of the guests that I invited in our Carving the Divine TV, Rinzai Zen priest, Reverend May Moore, he says something like, he sees there's a meditation method that Rinzai uses, and they see statues and they channel the energy of the statues and they do the meditation. It sounds really cool. I cannot even imagine how they do that. But the idea is to feel the energy, channel the energy of the statue. They channel the energy of the creator who created. That I think one of the reasons why people of the past made better statues, they say, is they are really serious people. They took the job very seriously. It's not no modern days, oh, it's cool. I want to get into it. But, even when they were little, they are trained to believe their job is very important.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you are a family coming from a family who made the statues, they became a bushi. So it's not like oh, I want to be bushi, but most of the time, so it's a hereditary, especially like a skillful one, very important ones in the past. So their father was a bushi. So yes, the higher idea is very important, but the most important thing is a skill set. And I think one of the questions that you wanted to ask me is about in the modern day age, maybe these statues can be replaced by modern way of making things like 3D printers and all this. But you cannot put the spirit into the 3D print, the human spirit. Some people might say, "Oh, this is just a bunch of jumbo mambo. It's the same thing." But I don't believe that. When you go to Japan and see those statues from the ancient time, you feel something. And I have no idea if the 3D printers can create that. Maybe one day they can, but right now I don't feel we can, because if we can do everything by technology, what's the point of living, really?
Thank you.
I have the question.
Please.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Yujiro, I'm very happy to hear you talk about the presence of the spirit of tradition, and especially the tradition. And also, I have the question between the relationship with between the tradition and innovation. Can you talk a little bit about this combination of creative innovation and preserving the past? Because the Western art values individual originality, but I think do you think that in this case the bushi is very different, and in what aspects, what characteristics, in concerning the idea of reproduction, imitation, etc.
Absolutely. I always tell people this is not the work of a Michelangelo. It's not a David. So artist imagination and
it's altered from the past.
The marbles and okay, I'm gonna get into it, and here's my inspiration. It's all like that. Icons are already there. Maybe in the past, 2,000 years ago, or I don't know how long ago it was more like an artist imagination. But icons are already set. Even non-Japanese Buddhist deities. There's a bodhisattva, Kannon bodhisattva, in different parts of the world, and they have a certain kind of characteristic that we have to follow. So this is not modern art. So as far as individualistic expression goes, it's a slim to none. But sometimes people create their own style. Even Master Saito from the movie, he has some styles that is very unique to him. But when the temples ask you to make certain thing, usually you're not supposed to do that. So you're making divine statues for the customers. So yes, so this is a very different.
It's more spiritual or divine. The art, it's concentrated on the spirit.
Art is more concentrated on keeping the tradition from the past. Of course, it comes with the spirituality too. But I'm sure that Michelangelo, when he made David, there's
Also.
there's a spirituality there too.
Okay,
So
okay.
a very different style. Yes.
I think also.
It's different from that individualistic attitude of the artist. For instance, like Leonardo da Vinci, it's very different. It's another attitude, but it's also creative. It's also creative, a creative that keeps tradition alive. It's not individualist, but collective. So I think it's very, very, very interesting. Now I'll ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Could you describe to us some experience that Yujiro, had with sculptures of Japan? For instance, some place of Japan that you like very much, some sculpture that have a great impact on you. Could you describe to us some moment, some experience, some place of Japan? Because I know you visited many sculptures and sculptures. So could you?
Probably that's a very different from what you're thinking. So I love that because the people have certain ideas, and I love to break that idea for people. So anyway, if you every moment is precious, and this work is not about going to different temples and to see different kind of statues. Other people have done that before. This is about follow in the guild of Bushi and see their life. They learn about their mentality, and we see a beautiful creation being made from the scratch to the end. And it's normally, when you see Japanese art and the performance, when you see a choreography, you can see the performance in your eyes. People can see the masters doing the choreography, and we might think, wow, this is amazing. Bushi art of Japanese statues, you cannot do that because it takes a long time. And the cinema is the way to speed up the things, which is amazing, right? So one of the icon that we're going to be making is 11面観音菩薩 12 head Kannon, and it's a replica icon from Hasedera. And a very famous statue. It's a very huge. So when I saw the statues, yes, you feel something. It's the grandiose, and also this is the statue that people ask for help for a long time, and eventually Bush is gonna make that statue. So that's that memorable moment. I don't know if it's a moment, it's a whole thing or not, but this is one aspect. Yes.
Yeah, I ask that question because, for instance, when I here in the West, when I go to a museum, for instance, I have this desire to see something incredible, to see something that's a masterpiece, that's a great work of art. But the relation that I have when I see an icon of a Buddhist icon, a Buddhist image, it's very different. It's not that relation to see a great work or to see something incredible of an individual. No, it's also I'm in relation to something that is an expression of a tradition, is an expression of an ancient tradition, and it is alive to me. Of course, it's alive. Of course, it has. The artist that created that image has an ability, has a skill, is a great artist, is an artist, but the relation that I have to that art is very different. It's a different relation. It's not something. It's not to see something incredible, but to have that relation with a symbol of Buddhism, a relation to this deity, a relation to this. It's another way. That's why I asked that question, because I know that it's another attitude of life. So I think it's very, very incredible. We need to learn with that attitude, that spirit.
Mhm.
But here's the thing,
Mm.
you might need to teach Japanese people, what you just said, actually, because majority of Japanese people, I don't say majority, I mean, especially modern people, when you go there, they do not have an attitude of seeing something spiritual or
Mm.
something, you can connect with the transcendence or something like that.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
Modernity has been destroying people's mind to some extent. Of course, we, because of the modern technology, we have vacuum cleaner, we have a TV, we
Yeah.
have a car to drive on. But we forget this is a very important question. I always think that, because modern science can answer some questions, but they cannot answer everything.
Oh,
There's just things that modern science is
They have
horrible
they
at
haven't
answering.
answered.
And even though they do answer it, is this going to really help us? Like a kind of comfort, or
Oh.
if we get this out, now what, right? I think so. Uh, Especially Japanese people, in my opinion, became very secular after
Yeah.
World War II.
ah,
After the emperor lost, his power,
yeah.
he's not divine being anymore, and all this. And Japanese people have a very skeptical attitudes about the
Mm.
religion. And then a lot of the modern people have this idea that religion create conflict, religion create war. There's a good point on that. There's a point about why people think what they think, because a lot of political leaders use religion for their own advantage. Throughout
Yes.
the history. You know, uh, but there's something beyond that.
Mm.
So I think it's a very important to eat whatever you believe in, whatever the spirituality you belong to. Well, you don't need to belong to anything,
Mhm.
but I think philosophical mind, spiritual mind. To me, it's a very important. Because that's how I operate. Because if I don't operate, people can deceive me very easily. People can throw some statistic. Oh, this is a statistic there. You shouldn't believe that. So anyway, I think you because you mentioned it, I wanted to mention that too, because unfortunately, these beautiful spiritual creation of the past are not appreciated as much as it need to be. That's in my opinion. So.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yujiro, now we want to know more about your movie. That's very important movie, very important documentary.
Yeah,
Now,
when you watch it, maybe you might think it's not that important. Yeah.
I think it's a great documentary, but uh, of course, we already said that, because your documentary, besides the theme and the artistic quality, you are made a documentary in which you I don't know if I'm saying it rightly, but I think I can say it that way. You are struggling to preserve an ancient culture that, of course, is threatened to decline or to disappear due to the development of technology. But I think that struggle is very, very important, very beautiful struggle to preserve this handmade culture, because I think our hands is important, not only the computer, not only, but what we make with our hand, what we create with our hand is very important. Our body is important. So, as an introduction to your movie, can you talk a little about some moments of the movie? I know it's a kind of a spoiler, but could you tell us more? Could you, for instance, tell us some moment of the movie that you think it's beautiful to tell to us? I know it's a spoiler, but we want to know something about that, please.
Well, first I told you already about the beautiful, spiritual art being created from the scratch to the end. That itself is already, something that people have never seen before. If you don't like the movie, at least, you enjoy it. I would say that. But also, again, one of the important things is to learn about this master and apprentice relationship.
Okay.
So, in the Western world, people might think it's a bullying. Oh my gosh, why is it yelling? That's so. Without spoiling it too much, there's a scene. One of the senior person, senior master talks to younger master about the relationship between master and apprentice. So they make a correlation between wife and husband, and also wife and the husband,
son and father.
No, so wife and husband and parent and kid. So I was, and also master and apprentice. So which one's relationship is more important? That's a question to you. Without spoiling the movie.
Okay.
So people might think it's wow. I have never heard that before. That kind of thing. This is a very Japanese wisdom, because in the Western world, I think what relationship is more important. It's obvious, but you might be able to break the stereotype and think in a different kind of way. What I mean by that is that sometimes we are so inundated with a cliche in the 21st century. I love, for example, Greek mythology, because Greek mythology asks you these very difficult questions. It's not black and white, but gray, and how you're going to deal with the gray area. So this is very important, because life is like that. It's not like a Marvel hero. He is good, and evil person was purely evil or something like that, and good and bad, and So what I mean by that is some of the things that you learn from the documentary is not only about learning about Bushi, but it's about learning about yourself. That's what I want. What I want, because I made a documentary in a way that it's not preachy. We are talking about we have to save the tradition and all this. We talk about it a little bit, but it's not the main theme of the documentary. Main theme of the documentary is for you to go through your own journey. That's why I don't tell people how to think, what to think. But in a modern documentary is all about convincing you to think my way. Understand? So it's almost like a college essay. It has an introduction, body, and the conclusion. So I didn't want to make that kind of documentary, because the Buddhist sculptors and the sculptures of Japan, it's not about telling people how I think what it need to be.
Perfect.
I have the the commentary. We can talk this art of Bushi as an art of transcendence in the matter of wood. What do you think?
Well, initially it was they used more bronze. Bronze, but it became a wood. Just right about time that we talk about the 1000-ish, when Japanese started making their own style and all this, and there's a theory behind. Maybe Shinto was a tradition that worship wood. That's why they use wood. Maybe there's a theory, but we don't know exactly. But but the documentary that I'm doing is a wood carving one. Of course, there are people who make a stone statues and all this, but the one that I'm dealing with wood carving.
Okay. Oh, very very interesting. Let me say first that all that you said before was very interesting. The relation between mentor and disciple, I think it's something that I forgot to say at first in this art of Bushi. It's a very important theme, and also what you said about your idea with the documentary, what you want to affect the public, but not to say what the public must do. It's not something that you are talking to us. You must think that way. No, you are open us to some experience, to some learning, and I think it's a very very important thing. Thank you very much for what you said. Very very interesting. But Yujiro, two basic questions about your movie. When and where can we watch your movie?
That's a big idea, big questions. I've been going. I mean, we've been doing the festivals for a couple of years now, and we had a Corvette, and the process got slowed down.
Yeah.
And we wanted to distribute it sooner, but we couldn't. So hopefully by the end of this year is too optimistic. By beginning of next year or something, I can make it public and I can start distributing it. We have a few more festivals that we have to complete, which we could not complete during the COVID time. Right now, we can only see it in the festivals. Actually, there's a festival in Rio, which they could not show it last year. So maybe that's once the pandemic is a little bit better, they might open up the festival again. But yes, I'm eager to distribute it. It's about time, and we have the version in Portuguese too.
Nice. Yeah, we are looking forward to watch your movie. I'm looking forward because I know your channel and your work since last year. So I'm very anxious. I want to watch your movie. I think the theme, all that you said here, was very important. I think it was one of the greatest video I make in my channel, because all this theme you said is very very important. Because here in West we have an illusion. We think that the progress of science, the progress of technology, that also is important. It's very important, but we forgot our hands. As I said, we forgot the wood, the presence of matter, the presence of concrete things, and the see the world with other lenses, with other eyes. So, as I said before, when I go to a museum, I have the necessity to see something incredible, but I forgot to see small things, and how small things is also incredible, even more incredible than incredible things. And I think retrieve this thought is a very very important thing. That's why we invited you to this interview. So thank you. But I think we are finishing. But you want to say something?
Yeah, the last curiosity.
Okay, sure.
The question is, what are your favorite directors who influenced your art?
Okay. Well, when I started,
Some names, Eastern and Western. Some
well,
names.
when I think I can only give you that very usual answer, if that's okay with you. But when I started making a film when I was in high school, I never thought I would make a documentary like Buddhist sculptors of Japan. I made a comedy detective movie. And I fell in love with the process of cinema, so that's why I started, getting into the world of cinema. But at that time, I watched a lot of Akira Kurosawa's movies, and he was such a big influence on me. Hiroshi Inagaki was another big director in Japan. So he did a film called Rickshaw Man. That's one of my favorite movies. Those people are pretty much the people that got me into making a cinema. So, and I wanted to make a samurai movies actually when I was younger. Yeah. But it happened to be I didn't make one, and I thought at some point I thought I wanted to make a romantic comedy, but I could I didn't happen, and
you love this new journey now.
Yeah, the journey is in the end. What happened is I work in Los Angeles, design industry, and made videos for business. And it was just a job to pay a bill.
Make my bill.
And I wanted to make something at least once in my life, something meaningful to me, to my people, and to the world. That's why I want
the great contribution.
This is really a good challenge. It took me 10 years to come this far, but this subject is not recyclable. Everything else, romantic comedy, detective movie, recyclable. Somebody else is going to do it.
Em português é descartável. Em português, descartável.
It's not discarded.
So that's why I fight for it, because people ask me all the time, what are you going to do next? Hey, I gotta put this film.
What's the new piece?
Yeah. So because this is an incredible subject. Not because I made it, just it's 1,400 years in Japan. Never been explored in the Western world, and it has so many layers. The reason why that I have my YouTube channel and I have my blog is called Butsuzoshon. Butsuzoshon is about not teaching. I don't want to teach anybody, but people can learn how to appreciate Butsuzo. So that's why I created all the extra contents, because my documentary itself is not enough to tell how multifaceted, how profound this
vast, broad.
Yes. But the documentary is a start, because that documentary,
it's your life project.
My life project, but at the same time, regular people can connect.
Yes,
this is important. When you go to museum and see statues, many people cannot connect these statues. Oh, Buddha sitting down. But once you see the people actually practicing this art, people can connect with these people. Therefore, they would like to learn more about the symbolism behind the statues,
Hmm.
and more go to the museums and see the statues in a different kind of way, because there's a missing something between academic world and the museum world and even spiritual world.
Yeah.
They fail to connect with regular people.
Mm.
Once
You
you
can
have that
broke the
missing-
gap.
yes, once you have the missing piece,
Mhm.
you realize these traditions are incredible. But
Yeah,
without
because you
having that,
transcend. You transcend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
so that's the
Yeah,
idea, big
very-
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, there's Japanese cinema. It's a great cinema. I think it's one of the best movies were Japanese movies. Yeah, you mentioned Akira Kurosawa. I love Akira Kurosawa movies. I think he made the greatest movies of cinema. So it's very interesting. And that you mentioned Kurosawa, I think it's good. So I really hope your movie makes more success. I think, of course, it will be more more success. So thank you, Yujiro. It was
Thank
a
you. Thank you.
great pleasure. So can
Thank
you
you so
say
much for having
you
me.
want to say
Thank you.
your last ends here? You want to say some words to finish the last words here?
Oh, thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for having an engaging conversation with me, because it's not like I can have this conversation with everybody, if that makes any sense.
The
Because
Brasil,
I'm
o Brasil
crazy.
vai ficar conhecendo, né?
And now I hope that your movie be more known in Brazil, because I think it's a very important thing. So that's another reason why I invited you, because I think Brazilian people need to know what you want you have to say. Your movie has to say.
Because
why.
fala pra ele que no Brasil tem muitos budistas também.
Yeah, there are many Buddhists in Brazil. There are
Tem
many
budistas.
the Japanese immigration in Brazil is very strong.
Mhm.
So there are many Japanese and many Japanese Buddhists in Brazil. So I think it's a good move to show here. So thank
Fala
you.
que e é
Thank
lógico
you.
que e fala pra ele que é lógico que a gente ama budismo, eu estudo e gosto do budismo,
Yeah,
você
and
também.
of course we,
Todos.
she and me, William.
Eu tenho alunos.
We like Buddhism also. She he is a professor of Oriental Eastern philosophy. So
Oh, wow.
it's Taoism. The main area his main area is Taoism, but he's also a student of Buddhism.
Many students, my students are also dedicated to Buddhism.
Yeah.
Study in Brazil.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope I didn't make a fool out of myself in front of the professor. So
You were the professor. So
okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Yujiro.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Grateful.
Thank you.